Shit, I'm back on Apex. In the game.
This is your champion.
Mm-mm-mm. You big dummy. I know they mad.
Harvesters are now available.
Hmm? I don't want to hear nothing about them dumbass 2K. That shit ass. Shit goofy as fuck.
Let's get the job done. Terrestrial.
Chiefs
This is
one
your
need to send me
champion.
an invite.
I don't fear anything. Can you say the same?
Keith. You know Apex. He just sent me
The
an invite.
powerful woman knows.
Huh? You want Crucial should call him Holy Kitchen.
Yeah.
Call that nigga Holy Kitchen.
Moving right on, this one's really weird. Mysterious foam, dead fish wash ashore as surfers report an illness. Yeah, so this foam's coming up on the beach, dead fish everywhere, and apparently people are getting illness that can even go to death. And I've heard this is not the only area that this has happened, but they're saying people visiting southern Australia may have been in for a surprise as mysterious foam, dead fish were washing ashore. So they're saying it's a microbial plume created by an unusual weather condition, resulted in foam spanning over hundreds of yards coastline. They say the plume may cause algae to grow out of control, producing toxins that can kill fish, mammals, and birds, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The crazy thing is, it says the substance may also cause human illness or even death in extreme cases, the NOAA says. And it's happening because it says the surfers and visitors have reported feeling sick after leaving the beach. What were the symptoms?
Harvesters are now available.
In quotes, while we were out there, we just started coughing. Also in quotes, lots of people reached out. So many people have said they had exactly the same symptoms. So what did I do? I reached out to an Australian friend and asked him, like, is this normal? And the guy said, yes, it actually happens every 3 years. Furthermore, I know you guys want to know what is being recalled at Whole Foods. Check this out.
Now to a consumer alert, Whole Foods mac and cheese bites are being recalled. It is because they contain undeclared egg and meat ingredients. The bites were sold nationwide. They can cause serious or even life-threatening allergic reactions. The product came in 8.5-ounce cartons and have a best buy date of November 29th, 2025. They're sold between early February to March.
Who does this come down to? FDA? Like, are they supposed to be catching this stuff? Clearly, whoever's supposed to be catching all these food recalls are on vacation or not present. Found in some baby formulas. They're saying a new report and study reveals which products contain concerning levels. Here's what to know if your baby has consumed these formulas. Okay, I won't go into that part. You guys can do your own research for that. I want to tell you which ones they are. Which formulas have the highest levels. And it says the CR tested 41 different formula products, including those from popular brands like Enfamil and Similac, newer startup manufacturers as well as European and
getting back on Apex, can I?
sold in the U.S. The study sorted formulas into top choices, good choices, and worst choices. Good news is the majority of the testing formulas landed in the top choices or good choices. So, I mean, if it was my kid, I'd be doing top choices. I would not take any chances, right? It says, however, the CR reported that some results were concerning. Some products containing potentially harmful levels of arsenic and lead and containing BPA and acrylamide, and most containing PFAS. Can you believe that? You must be confident in giving this stuff to your babies? They also noted lead was found in the other contaminants that was tested for. The report finds concerning levels in Dr. Brown's Soothe Pro, L-Care Hypoallergenic, Enfamil Nutrigen, Enfamil Pro Synergy Simply Plant-Based. I'm sure a lot of people are picking that one just because it sounds so good. Cabrita Goat Milk-Based Pure Amino Hyperallergenic, Similac Lemon-Tim, Similac Neosure, Similac Total Comfort, Unalcoholic Soy. At Target, I'm guessing. Similac seems to be not doing very good, right? That and Enfamil, like those are the only ones that I really notice. But our kids are a little bit older. So like, what's that? And here's another crazy thing. You guys can read what we are reported out to their parent companies, Origo, Abbott Nutrition, Med Gums, and Oz Nutrition. Now, these are like, remember I told you how they do this, umbrella. And there's a guy at the top, and then basically so brand, you're probably buying like something. It's not really good. And then we won't go down that road, but check this out. They reached out to said they have testing protocols to ensure that the levels found were within so now you're going to find out that they can have so much lead, they can have so much metal, they can have so much toxin. You got to start rethinking things, folks. By the way, bigger things, I'll link this video in the top description and comment. Watch that. Which all have products here category says they never intentionally add chemicals or metals to their products. Okay, so how would we get that? Okay, how in the heck are they not intentional collapse and it ends up in your child's mouth? They added that heavy metals in the food supply are not just baby formula issue. For crying out loud. Look, hey, by the way, you got toxins in your stuff. Well, everything has toxins in it. Can you believe it, folks? This is what it's coming to. You gotta pay attention. I won't go on. Enough for you to know. Dive into that. If you got small children or have kids that have small children, you might want to deep dive that. Again, this is the headline of that. If you want to read more on that, I would deep dive it if I had kids or had kids in my family that I was concerned about. And again, this video I put out will give you a lot more information on stuff like that. You guys have my information. And while we're on this kid kick, check this one out really quick. I won't deep dive it, but recall 37,000 child car seats recalled. So they're saying that they may be correct labels 43 to 57 inch, should 34 to 49. That is the goal. So if that's your ballpark, look up car seat recall to get more information on that. I'll end it right there.
Came out here with the boars.
If you guys want to watch that video, I'll pin it right up here. Please share this important information out.
I
Help
know.
out your local communities and make sure your notifications
They
bells
killed
on.
that
We
day.
got a lot more coming down the pipe. Until next time, keep
Them
running.
niggas was nice. House party, yeah. House party, yeah.
I wish people stop mixing it today. You know what I'm saying? That's a goof. You. What's up, man? March the 16th, 2025. March the 16th. So we're gonna do the same.
We're going to do beautiful things together.
Huh. It's in my remote. What you mean it's in my remote?
This is your
You
champion.
see it moving the TV? Shut up.
I look forward to meeting you all. Real close.
Let's land here. Let's find something good.
Booking a flight.
Let's just.
We'll notify you as soon as the price changes. In the meantime,
Why you ain't eating no cookie?
what?
You ain't gonna eat all three of them. I don't even know where it went. Where the fuck did it go? Say this shit. Kenna, you got guns? I'm about to get smoked. I ain't got a gun.
Does not find this stupid or resent it at all.
Okay.
You got a gun?
You are the most focused person in the world, and to be the center of that focus is intoxicating. But once I had Maggie, suddenly I became invisible.
Damn!
Jump in, get Louisa, and let's just round robin this for like an hour. So we don't
What the hell was
Patrick.
The hell was Keith doing? That nigga got smoked out. Where was he? What board is this? This don't look like.
Are now available.
In bed and you had the energy of a cadet. And I cannot believe you have not given the slightest bit of attention to Owen. Our grandchild.
Still don't love the name.
Okay.
All right. Okay, listen, I get it. I failed you guys. Okay, I knew it then. And I know it now.
I just don't understand why you weren't on vacation.
Because, you know, Maggie talks about it that you're like one big happy family. Believe it or not, that's what I want. With each one of you. That's what I thought at the beginning we were going to have. And you all said the same thing, which is that it was great at the beginning. If you think about vacation,
Who did?
Oh, so, I'm sorry. Her pitch is that you could be less of a dick in 2-week chunks.
There you go.
Do children really pay for the sins of their parents? Is the boomerang effect real? And is it true that fate gives villains an ironic chance to end up in place of their own victims? They also say that women look for a husband who resembles their father. But what if their father is a serial maniac? Today, we will hear an absolutely wild story that began with the disappearance of Melissa Wolfenbarger. And before we get started, be kind enough to support my channel. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay active. It will help a lot. I will be very grateful to you for that. Let's get started. The last time Melissa's
Let the
mother,
games
Norma,
begin.
spoke with her
I
on
can't
video
wait.
was on November 26, 1998, on Thanksgiving. They discussed the upcoming Christmas together, gifts, and weekend plans. Melissa, along with her husband and 2 children, was planning to visit her parents for the holiday. However, when Christmas arrived, neither their daughter nor her husband had arranged to show up. Norma and Carl knew that Melissa would never miss spending the holidays with her parents. And even if there had been serious, the young woman would have to let them know that her plans had changed. This time, things were different. At that moment, there was
Damn, he almost dead.
as Melissa was a 21-year-old woman. She was married to her high school sweetheart, Christopher Wolfenbarger, and was raising 2 small children, 3-year-old Christina and 2-year-old Joe. The couple lived with their little ones in a duplex in Atlanta. For the holiday, they were supposed to come to Melissa's family home in Locust Grove, Georgia, where she had spent her childhood. Conversation about Christmas. Melissa had asked her mother for pictures of
Damn,
herself.
we're moving.
Norma promised to buy a beautiful frame, place the photos inside, and put the gift under the Christmas tree for her daughter. Unfortunately, Melissa would never get the single parent gift. It remained wrapped under that tree for a long time.
Word. With the quickness.
1998, and mobile phones were still around.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Parents and other members of the Potter family had tried to reach out for a while. There was one in January.
Don't let my badges fool you. Got a hell of a lot more back at home.
When they arrived,
Let's get one more in.
the apartment had been completely cleaned out, as if no one had ever lived there. A deeply worried Norma went to speak with the neighbors and learned that her daughter's family had moved out. One of the neighbors recalled hearing them loading their belongings sometime between Christmas and New Year's. But the Wolfenbargers hadn't left a forwarding address, a note, or any kind of warning. The entire family had simply vanished. Norma and Carl weren't about to give up so easily. They tracked down the company where they believed their son-in-law, Christopher, had been working and headed there. It was a glass company. At the office, they were told that Christopher had actually been fired after crashing one of the company's trucks. According to their records, he had worked there from October 1998 until sometime in 1999, so the management had no idea where he was now. Melissa's parents had no choice but to return home empty-handed. In February, Norma's birthday came, and she held on to hope that her daughter would call to wish her well, but that call never came. That was the moment Norma realized that something terrible had happened to Melissa. She was devastated by the realization that her little girl would never come Melissa Patton Wolfenbarger was born on September 9th, 1977, and grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, alongside her older sister, Tina Patton. She was always cheerful, kind, and trusting. She loved animals and would bring home every kitten and puppy she found in the neighborhood. In the future, Melissa dreamed of becoming a veterinarian and rescuing four-legged pets. She and Tina participated in school beauty pageants and were very close. Melissa's kindness and trustfulness remained with her as she grew older, but they were soon joined by teenage rebellion. As a result, she ran into trouble with the law over minor offenses. She would sneak out of her bedroom window to go to parties with boys. These rebellious acts eventually led Melissa to fall in love with a boy who didn't make the best impression on her parents. But the high schooler was in a hurry to grow up, so she married her high school sweetheart, Christopher, and moved to the city with him. After marriage, things quickly fell into place. By the time she turned 21, Melissa was a proud mother of 2 children. 98. Everything changed. That was when the young woman suddenly disappeared, never to be seen
Attention.
again.
Evo
Her parents
harvesters are
searched for their
online.
youngest daughter in hospitals, morgues, and even local jails. They knew that Melissa had worked at a bakery for some time alongside her older sister, Tina. But the management told them that she hadn't shown up for work in over a month. They had no information about her getting another job. One day, she simply didn't come to work and never warned anyone. Her co-workers went to check on her at home, but the neighbors told them that Melissa's family had moved away. Throughout 1999, there was no sign of the young woman. Her mother and father prayed that their daughter was alive and would return home. They clung to the hope that Melissa had a good reason for not calling her parents. After months of waiting and conducting their own search, in January 2000, Norma Patton officially filed a missing person report. When she reached out to the police, Atlanta detectives were able to track down Christopher Wolfenbarger, Melissa's husband. But his wife was not with him. Neither were their children. Christopher claimed that Melissa had left to pursue her dream. According to him, she had long wanted to start a new life in California, so one day she simply disappeared. But Norma and Carl were 100% sure that their daughter would never abandon her children. Something was clearly wrong. An adult woman who didn't have to account for her actions to her parents, the police didn't give her disappearance the attention it deserved. Moreover, the case itself posed a major challenge. There was no crime scene. Her husband, Christopher, insisted that she had been planning her move to
I
California.
need a motherfucking muzzle.
He
Man,
claimed
shit
that she had
lagging.
been working double shifts at the bakery to save more money, and that sometimes she even booked a hotel room so she wouldn't have to drive home after a long shift. Then one day, she simply didn't come home. At first, Christopher assumed she would return later, but when she still didn't show up the next day, he figured she had decided to follow through on her plan and had gone to California alone. So, according to Christopher, there was nothing unusual about her disappearance. Investigators tried to pressure him, bringing up his criminal past, but Christopher dismissed it as old news. He claimed that he and his wife were like Bonnie and Clyde, just on a much smaller scale. He admitted that they had been a little wild in their youth, even before their marriage. However, as it later turned out, that wasn't entirely true. Melissa had actually reported Christopher to the police and accused him of domestic violence. According to her, he had repeatedly hit her. On one occasion, he allegedly drugged her and then dragged her down the street by her hair. In response to Melissa's accusations, Christopher filed a counterclaim. At one point, she packed her things and left to stay with her sister.
Now I gotta
But a
come
week
back for
later,
that shit.
she returned for her children. Their relationship was unstable. But when a judge reviewed their case, Christopher asked for a private conversation with his wife. After a brief discussion, Melissa withdrew her complaint and returned to him. After all, they had 2 children to raise. When his wife unexpectedly left for California, Christopher moved out of the duplex and went to stay with relatives. while he sent the children to live with his mother. As a result, Christina and Joey now lived with their grandmother, and their father visited them only occasionally. Since the children were still very young, they quickly forgot about their mother. They only remembered their father when Chris came to his mother's house. Norma Patton stated that she had never liked Melissa's husband. She believed it was because of him that her daughter ran away from home as soon as she finished high school and rushed into marriage. Melissa's older sister, Tina, recalled noticing a handprint on Melissa's neck once. Melissa burst into tears and begged her not to tell anyone. Tina's boyfriend had a man-to-man talk with Christopher, and that was the end of it. Regardless, Carl and Norma Patton never believed that their daughter would just run away without telling anyone. And even if she had, she would have found a way to contact her parents. However, as time passed, there was still no clarity about what had happened to Melissa. A young woman, a mother of 2 small children, had simply vanished into thin air. Strangely enough, in 2000, during questioning, Christopher Wolfenbarger told authorities that he had seen Melissa outside their home in March or April of 1999. But earlier, he had claimed the last time he saw her was in December 1998. Despite this contradiction, Melissa's disappearance remained unresolved. 5 years later, in 2003, her family found itself in the spotlight once again. But this time, it wasn't because of Christopher. Instead, it was Carl Patton, Melissa's father, who ended up behind bars. Back in mid-1983, Carl had been arrested for theft charges. He served a short sentence and was later and it wasn't uncovered until more than 20 years later, after DNA evidence finally proved his involvement. In 2003, Carl was arrested for the murder of 31-year-old Liddy Matthews Evans. She had been living with Joe Cleveland, Carl Patton.
This nigga went and slaughtered all of them.
She had been shot in the head. And this was the only crime Melissa's
He went and killed them all.
Just minutes after Carl's arrest,
He killed all them niggas.
announced that she was willing to testify against him in exchange for immunity from prosecution. A plea deal was made between her and the district attorney's office, and Melissa's mother gave incriminating testimony against her husband. According to Norma, between
Fleas and ticks are all right. Protect your pet with flea and tick netting every day. That's you.
Between 1970 and 1977, Carl Patton and his friend, 28-year-old Joe Cleveland, committed a series of crimes. First, Carl and his friend shot and killed Carl's own uncle, 45-year-old Fred White, and Fred's girlfriend, Betty Jo Eckler.
He ran
A
through them.
month later, Carl told his wife that Joe had broken their agreement and had talked about the murder. Carl convinced Norma to help him get rid of his loose-lipped friend, who could cause serious trouble for their family, and she agreed. According to Norma's testimony, on December 17th, the Pattons wrapped the bodies in sleeping bags, attached weights, and dumped them into the river. Afterward, Norma cleaned the house, washed away the blood, and destroyed any evidence. Carl burned the blood-stained couch in the backyard. The only thing Norma forgot was to clean the trunk. The bodies were found in the river a few days later. The Pattons were questioned, as they were among the suspects in the killings, especially after bloodstains were discovered in their van's trunk. Although the blood type matched that of Liddy Evans, there wasn't enough evidence to charge Carl at the time, so authorities had to let him go. It wasn't until late 2002 that another DNA test was conducted, and this time, Carl Patton's involvement in the crime was undeniable. On February 23, 2003, he was arrested at his own home. It turned out that the father of missing Melissa Wolfenbarger was a serial killer, someone who had no trouble taking the lives of his best friend, family member, or their mother. So it wasn't hard to suspect that this man could have easily killed his own daughter. Perhaps he had seen something, or was planning to turn him into peace.
The That's funny. That motherfucker fell all the way back down.
Melissa's disappearance. However, he was never charged with the murder. According to Carl, he would never take the life of an innocent person. He claimed that he only eliminated those who posed a threat to his family. Still, many believed that Melissa had become Carl Patton's fifth victim. There were also theories linking her disappearance to the mafia that had operated in the southern United States since the 1960s. This criminal organization was known for their conflict, especially against criminal members. Rumors circulated that Carl Patton had tried
It's so much here.
though Carl himself had not.
You up
First
or
trial
down?
against Melissa's father took place in March 2000.
No, I'm talking about up or down.
Focusing on the murders of Fred White and his victims claimed that Carl and Joe had killed him for financial gain, promising
Yeah, I'm out.
to get rid of their unfaithful husband. After committing the crime against his own uncle, Carl later claimed he had regretted it. He pleaded guilty to the charges against him. He was sentenced to 2 life terms with the possibility of parole after 20 years. He was then transferred to another county, where the trial began for the murders of Liddy Evans and Joe Cleveland. Once again, Carl pleaded guilty and received 2 more life sentences. His wife, Norma, effectively admitted to being guilty of failing to report the crimes and of destroying evidence. She was sentenced to 12 months of probation
That's
and
it?
fined $1,000. Detective Bruce Jordan had been the one investigating Carl Patton's old cases. After 25 years, he managed to track down and imprison a serial killer. And now, the convicted murderer turned to him with a request to find his missing daughter, Melissa Wolfenbarger. Carl considered Jordan a true professional, believing that if he had been able to catch a criminal after a quarter of a century, he might also be able to find Melissa. The Patton family had always been certain that Carl would never have taken the life of his youngest daughter. He loved his girls and was devastated when he learned about her disappearance. Melissa's sister, Tina, and her mother, Norma, believed that someone else was responsible for her vanishing. Detective Bruce Jordan took on the Wolfenbarger case. After news of the reopened investigation was published in the newspaper, he received a tip from the Atlanta morgue. An examiner called him to report that they had been storing unidentified remains for the past 4 years. It turned out that back in April 1999, a severed head had been discovered near the area where Melissa's family had lived.
Damn.
Then, June 1999, in the same area, authorities found mutilated limbs stuffed into 4 garbage bags and dumped in a wooded area. At first, investigators suspected that these remains were connected to the severed head. But since the torso was never found, all the remains were classified as belonging to a male. At the time the body fragments were discovered, Melissa Wolfenbarger had not yet been reported missing. As a result, the gruesome finds remained unidentified. Because the person's death was clearly a homicide, the remains were never buried. They were kept in storage. In reality, these remains had been found just months after Melissa's disappearance, near the glass company where her husband, Christopher Wolfenbarger, had once worked. Norma Patton had heard about the discovery in the news. However, reports at the time stated that the victim was most likely a Caucasian male. She had thanked God that it wasn't her daughter. Now, she learned the truth. The remains
Man, I missed every shot.
When convicted killer Carl Patton was told that his daughter was most likely dead, he broke down and cried. What angered him the most was the fact that her dismembered body had been found long ago. It took the arrest of the perpetrator's father for the remains to finally be identified. The worst part was that a DNA test had not been conducted immediately when Melissa's mother first reported her missing in early 2000. Melissa's body remained unidentified until 2003, when the remains were finally compared to Carl Patton's DNA. This also meant that crucial evidence had likely been lost over time. An autopsy revealed that Melissa's neck had been cut with a mechanical saw. Her skull was almost completely hairless, as it had been doused in bleach. This was why the remains had initially been misidentified. It is unknown whether these actions were carried out
They coming.
or if they were part of torture inflicted on her while she was still alive. Her head and limbs, including her hands, legs, and feet, had been placed in garbage bags and discarded. The location where they were dumped was no accident. The area was a pet trap.
Yeah, I can't, man.
To transport the remains. Determining
Fucking
the exact
3 of
cause
them.
of death was also impossible
4.
due to the absence of
It's a whole other team.
which was never found. When Christopher Wolfenbarger was informed about the location of his missing wife's remains, he didn't rush to claim them. Melissa's mother, Norma Patton, believed that Chris was responsible for her daughter's death. She had never liked him and never wanted her daughter to marry him. Moreover, Melissa's body parts had been discarded near Chris's workplace. For the police, Wolfenbarger was still a person of interest. No charges were filed against him, but he was called
My
in
dude
for
be
another
moving
round of
fast as
questioning.
fuck crawling, bruh.
In an interview, Christopher stated that he had always cooperated with the investigation and had even provided his DNA years ago. According to him, he had nothing to hide. He had absolutely no reason to kill Melissa.
Back up before you can
They
say.
didn't
How
have
the hell you get all of that shit?
found the last act. Besides, he claimed he would never have been so reckless.
I need to get me a gun. Look at this weak ass nemesis. This shit
bringing
fuck.
suspicion upon himself.
Yeah.
Christopher also admitted to reporters that he had truly believed his wife had changed her
I'm about to
name
just go get
and
one.
left to seek a better life. Deep down,
Yeah, I'm
he
just
had
gonna get
hoped
one
that
right
she
over here.
would return one day,
They
at
go
least for the
thing
sake
right
of their
here.
children. That was why he never reported her missing to the police.
Go.
Melissa's older sister,
Oh
Tina,
shit.
took her
I
loss
might
to
not
heart.
be getting one over
For
here.
a long time, she couldn't come to terms with the lack of closure in the case. Tina even had dreams where Melissa appeared to her, calling for help. Carl Patton, sitting in prison and unable to say goodbye to his daughter, went through a profound change. Failing to get justice for Melissa, he finally understood what it felt like to lose a loved one. Her death made him realize what other families had gone through, and that no one deserved such pain. The most shocking part of this case was that a serial killer spent most of his time behind bars fighting for justice for his youngest daughter. But before that, he made one final confession, his 5th crime. Carl told investigators that on March 8, 1973, 4 years before the crimes for which he had already been convicted, he took the life of a man named Richard Russell Jackson. Maria White, the wife of his uncle, who later hired Carl to kill her unfaithful husband, had first asked him for a criminal favor years earlier. According to Maria, Richard Jackson had been her first husband. She claimed he had abused, insulted, and humiliated her throughout their marriage. Now married to Fred White, Carl's uncle, she wanted revenge. So in the end, Carl had eliminated both of this woman's husbands. 10 years before Melissa's disappearance and 35 years before his confession. Carl was once again extradited to another county to stand trial. He testified that he and his friend, Joe Cleveland, had lured Richard into a car, driven him to a wooded area, and then shot him. Everyone in the courtroom was shocked when the victim's daughter, Gladys Elaine Jackson, stood up to speak. The young woman made a statement thanking Carl Patton. Mrs. Jackson told the court that her father had constantly abused her mother, Maria, and that Fred White, Maria's next husband and Gladys' stepfather, had also been violent toward her. According to Gladys, both of these men were monsters. Her childhood memories, bruises,
So my
and
kid.
so by sending both men to their graves, Mr. Patton had done Maria a short favor. Otherwise, one of them would eventually see Maria's death. However, Richard Jackson said Maria, who only wanted to collect life insurance.
That faggot in that fucking window, yo.
In the end, Melissa's father was sentenced to yet another life term. Carl told the police that no one else had ever died by his hand. Authorities, however, were highly skeptical of such a statement. This was a man who had killed 5 people, then suddenly lived as a law-abiding citizen for 20 years. One thing investigators were certain of, though, Carl had loved his daughter. that he would never have harmed her. So Melissa's remains were found, but no one was ever arrested or charged in connection with her death. In 2007, reached out to Cold Case investigator Cheryl Pop.
Man.
The founder and director of the Cold Case
Yeah, nah.
Research Institute frequently hosts a popular program that delves into unsolved cases. She is
You
also
probably running again?
podcast Zone 7. Cheryl vividly remembers the moment she first saw Norma Patton.
Well, we can join
It
that
was
party
at a
over
formal
there.
dinner for an event she was hosting. As Cheryl spoke on stage, she noticed a woman
I'm just gonna start the regular party.
than for a formal gathering. When the event ended, the stranger approached her and said, "My daughter was decapitated, and I need your help." That woman was Norma Patton. Without hesitation, Cheryl agreed to hear her story. And Norma,
There we go. Already. Never failed. Your fucking buddy.
a mother exhausted from years of seeking justice for her daughter, she
Nah,
immediately
fuck
warned the
Batman,
Zone
man.
7 host about the fact that her husband was in prison for murdering 5 people. She herself had been given probation for helping him dispose of the bodies.
Batman.
This wasn't about them. It was about their missing daughter. Cheryl told Norma that she would need to speak with Carl Patton to build a full victimology. Meanwhile, she reached out to search specialists to bring in
Where you been at, over Fleeces?
and re-examine the wooded area where the black garbage bags
Yeah.
containing Melissa's remains had once been found. Cheryl